Feel our palms turn up towards the ceiling as we broaden across our collarbones. And take a moment to allow the floor to support us. Give ourselves permission to arrive, to be supported physically and mentally as well. As we find this place of support, we begin to recognize our breath. Feeling the soothing of our breath. Keeping our eyes closed, let's lift our arms up and overhead, keeping our shoulder blades firm on our back, opening up the sides of our ribs, the sides of our shoulders. And then on our next exhale, let's bring our arms back to our side. And then inhaling, lifting them back up. And exhaling, lowering them back down. And inhale, lift back up. And exhale, lower down. Let's find one more time just like that. Flowing with breath, keeping the base of our ribs hugged down. And then flip our palms over again. Let's roll out our ankles. And then reverse the direction. And then relax, walking our feet in hip width distance apart. Let's draw our right knee into our chest, take it out to the side, and then extend our leg and lower it back down. Draw our left knee into our chest, roll it out to the side, extend our leg and lower back down. Try and keep your core stable and your hips stable. Right knee in, roll it out, and extend our leg. Left knee, draw it in, roll it out, and extend our leg. Right leg one more time. And left leg one more time. Now we're going to roll our right leg out, bend our knee, lift it up, roll it back in, and then extend our leg. Roll our left leg out, lift up our leg as we draw it in, and then lift it back up and extend forward. Right leg out to the side, nice big circle, and extend. Left leg out to the side, nice big circle, and extend and lower. Right leg one more time, keeping our hips stable. And left leg one more time. And relax. Bend our knees, walk our feet out wide. We're going to lower our knees down to one side and then the other. Listening to how we move through our body. Our feet, ankles are staying stable. How this movement affects our hips. Listen to not just how the legs move within our hips, but how the back of our hips respond to that movement. Trying to stay stable through our low back. Noticing a little bit of rotation from mid back up, not anything big. Shoulders stay relaxed down. And then come back to center. Walk our feet in, hip width distance apart. Lift our feet one at a time. Shins are about parallel to the ceiling. Curve in our low back, belly's hugged in. Knees are stacked over the top of our hips. Shoulders stay relaxed down. We're going to make small circles with our knees going in the same direction. And try not to let your feet touch or your legs touch in any way. Imagine that you're holding a block between your legs, keeping your shins and your upper legs the same distance apart as you make your circles. And as you feel these circles through our core, notice them through our hips as well. And then reverse. And come back to center, draw our knees into our chest, give them a hug. Relaxing our hips, letting our shoulders stay heavy, finding length through our spine. Feeling our breath. From here, lift our feet up. We're going to rock forward and back. Come all the way up. Don't let our feet touch the ground. And then roll back down. And roll back up. And come back down, pause at the bottom, and pause at the top. Pausing at the bottom, and pause at the top. Continue to flow. Just waking up our belly muscles. And come all the way up, cross our legs, rise up tall through our spine, let our shoulders roll back and down. Lean forward, let our fingertips come down to the floor. Let the movement come from our pelvis as we rise up tall through our spine. And then rise back up, switch the cross of our legs. Tipping our hips forward, let our fingertips come down to the floor. Keep rising up tall through our spine, then walk our hands forward as it feels good for us. And then rise back up. We're going to extend our legs forward. As we extend our legs forward, I want you to find a soft bend in your knees. You can lift your knees up off the floor. Tip your pelvis forward. Take your hands out in front of you, make fists. And I want you to extend one thumb out. It doesn't matter which one. And then grab a hold of that thumb. So now your knuckles are side by side. And you're holding on to only one thumb. The other thumb is wrapping around the extended thumb. You're going to take your fists and place them between your inner thighs. And make sure that the position that you choose between your legs is comfortable for you. It's not painful or uncomfortable. Walk your feet in so that you don't have to drop your knees in narrower than your ankle. Rise up tall. Actively press your legs into your fists. And relax. Extend your legs, tip your pelvis forward. Same thing, squeezing your inner thighs into your fists. And relax. We're gonna do that one more time. You can do it with bent knee or you can do it extended leg, whatever feels the best for your hips. Actively squeeze. We're engaging our adductors, our inner thighs, to find stability within our legs and lessen the load on the outside of our hips. And relax. Let's find an all fours position. Joints are stacked, fingers are spread wide. And then on our next inhale, let's extend our heart forward for cow pose. Exhaling, rounding our back. Inhale, extending our heart. Exhale, round our back. Inhale, extend. And exhale, round. Come back to a neutral spine. Sink our hips back towards our heels. Walk our hands back so that we can find cow pose in a little bit of a child's pose. So we're looking for a place where we can put that curve in our low back. We can lengthen our front of our belly. We can let our shoulders stay down away from our ears. Our arms can stay straight. And then we're not rounding our low back. We want to keep that nice, long, natural curve of our low back with length across our belly. Now from here, take your left hand behind your head. And on your next inhale, we're going to twist to the left. Exhale, come back to center. Inhale, open our heart. Exhale, unwind. Fingertips are light on our head. Elbow stays kicked back. You're not just feeling rotation through your upper mid back, You're also feeling how your right shoulder blade moves on your back. There's a lot going on in this flow. We're staying stable to the low back, so the low back can't work and try and find this movement for you. So if this feels like it's a little less than what you're accustomed to rotating in, then you're rotating into your low back and you're using that to assist your movement. Find one more time. And come back to center. Left hand comes down to the ground. Right hand comes behind you. And it's just fingertips lightly resting at the back of your head. Elbow kicks back. Now you feel your shoulder blade firm on your back. On your next inhale, open up your ribs to the right. Exhale, come back to center. Inhale, open up to the right. Exhale, center. Feel the rotation, mid-back up, but also feel your left shoulder blade move onto your back and then come back to neutral with stability. Let's find one more time. Coming back to center, right hand comes down to the mat. We're going to stay in this child's pose-like position through the lower body. And then on our next exhale, let's round our upper back. Inhale, open our heart. Exhaling, rounding our back. Inhaling, opening our heart. Exhaling, rounding. Inhale, open. One more time, exhale, round. Inhale, open. Come back to a neutral spine. We're going to grab a hold of our blocks and place them out in front of us. Now, what's important to know about this pose is you want to be able to close off the front of your hips as much as possible and be able to tip your hips forward as much as possible. So here I can have my hips completely closed, but I feel like I have more room in my low back. So I'm going to take my knees wider. And this is really up to you. It doesn't have to be super wide. You want to be able to have as big of a curve in your low back as you can, and then be able to come down on this position to your blocks. Now, as we find our blocks, usually starting at a level 2 is the best place to start. You can go down or up from this position. Forearms only on the blocks. Hands are going to rest off the ends of them and elbows are off the other end. Now, you're going to need to adjust your blocks to be able to lower your chest. Make sure that your shoulders or your arms are shoulder width apart. Now, this is where we have to be mindful of our collarbone, that we're not dropping too far, but we're also stabilizing our shoulders as we lower down. So I want to be able to have that curve of my low back when I'm here, be able to open up my chest and find the full end range of motion in my shoulders. Now, depending on how far you can move in your hips, how much allowance you have there, you may need to go lower. Now, if you go lower on the block and you round your low back, then you lost the pose. Some of you may need to go higher. And this all just depends on the flexibility of your spine and your shoulders and your hips. So whatever version you want to try today, see if you can find as much of a cow pose in your body as you can. Let your head rest between your arms. Try not to drop it any further. Feel your shoulder blades firm on your back. Now I want you to lengthen your spine and see if you can flatten your upper back. So you're no longer in a curve in your upper back. If this is too much stress on your shoulders or your collarbone, I want you to leave the blocks out of it. And then you're just going to find one arm out as much as you can. And then we're going to lift our arm. So find which variation feels best for you. Flat back, ears between our arms. From this position, make sure that you feel stable in your lower body. You're going to lighten the load of your left arm on your block. and then relax it back down. Lift your right arm, lighten it up so it's just barely touching the block. And relax down. Lift your left arm, either hovering on the block or all the way up. If you're on the mat, then you're just holding that flat back, lifting your arm up to your full position, your full range of motion. So just rotate, lifting one arm at a time. And by rotation, I mean just simply switching sides. So you're not actually rotating your shoulders. You're not rotating your ribs. You're keeping everything stable. You're not moving your hips. Everything in the core of your body is very, very strong and stable. And you're just lifting your arm from its full range of motion back a little bit further using the strength of your back. And as you find this flow from one side to the other, this should be very challenging because you're moving from your full range of motion and then asking your body to work a little bit harder to lift it up. If your range of motion is big, then you're not in your full range of motion propped up with your block. So make sure you're in your full range of motion first. Feel free to play around with it as much as you like. And then once you've got it, once you feel like you've got the movement and you've fatigued those muscles, I want you to pause and relax. Then lift up, take one block between your legs, one block underneath your forehead, and let your shoulders relax. Let your upper back relax. Mid back relax. From this propped up position through the core of our body, we're going to sweep our left hand out to the side, back behind us, turning our palm up. Sweep it back out to the side, turning our palm down as we bring it forward. Right arm, sweep it out to the side, flip your palm up, and then sweep your right arm back up, palm down. Left hand back, palm up, and bring it forward, palm down. Right arm back, palm up. Right arm forward, palm down. One more time, each side on your own. And then relax. Walk our hands underneath our shoulders. Press ourselves up. We're going to release our blocks off to the side and grab a hold of our full-size towel. Now from our towel, we're going to unfold it so that you have your full length of towel. And then I want you to fold it in half the long way. Then fold it in half the short way. And then we're going to place that on our mat. And then with our towel in the center of our mat, we're going to take up the end that's closest to us and we're going to fold it in about a quarter of the way. And then we're going to take the end that's furthest away from us and fold it towards us a quarter of the way. So what you're going to have is a fold at the front, a fold at the back, and a gap in between the center. Now, some of us are going to need to stay here. We're going to be placing our feet on our towel. but others are going to need to go higher. So for those of you that are mobile through your feet, you're going to go higher. For those of you that know that you're not as mobile through your feet as you'd like to be, you're going to keep it in this position. To fold it higher, you're just taking your fold on each end and just folding it up one more time. Still keeping that gap between your fold. And my gap between my fold is about the size of my fist. So it's not super big, but it's not super small either. Once you get the folds, you're going to place your heel on one fold and the balls of your foot on the other fold. And then from here, holding on to the floor or blocks, you're going to come up to standing. So step your back foot in and then come all the way up. So the arch of your foot should be over that gap on your towel. Now I want you to take all your weight to your back foot. You have a split stance, but it's pretty small. It's not anything big. Make sure your feet are stable and that you feel stable. Feet are hip width distance apart in the width. Now from here, with your left leg straight, you're going to push your left knee to the inside of your big toe. So you're going to go in and push it forward. You should still be able to see your big toe. Try not to move your hips or your shoulders. Everything in the upper body stays symmetrical. Then pull your leg back. Push your knee forward and to the edge of your toes without rotating. So your right hip is going to have to work a little bit. And bring it back. Keeping your right hip stable. Push the knee in and forward to the edge of your toes. Come back. And more. Now, if this is super easy, you can take your right foot out a little bit wider so it's on the outside of your towel. But I want you to keep your weight balanced between each leg. So the tendency is to shift all your weight over to your right foot. Keep as much weight into that left foot as you can. Push your knee in and forward. Now you're taking more weight to your left foot. This is flattening out the arch of your foot. So you're actually stretching the bottom of your foot. Pull back and then bring it in. Should still see your big toe. Pull it back and bring it in. And bring it back and in. Bring it back. Now we're going to take our knee to the outside of our pinky toe. So you should still be able to see your pinky toe. Keep the four corners of your feet down. The tendency is to want to lift the big toe mound up off your towel. I want you to try and keep it pinned down. Bring your knee out wide and push it forward. And come back. If this is too intense, right foot comes back. Knee forward and to the outside of your pinky toe. The goal is to keep the big toe mound down and keep the knee out wide. Bring it back. Big toe mound, push it down, push your knee out wide and forward. Bring it back and push it forward. Keep that big toe mound down. Bring it back and down. We're flattening the outside of our foot this time. Bring back and bring it down. Bring it back and down. One more time. And bring it back. Now we're going to take our right foot, place it on the towel so we don't lose the folds that we created. And then take our left foot off, make any adjustments you need so that the arch of your foot is over that gap in between the two folds of your towel. And then I want you to start with your left foot back behind you. Then always move it forward if you want to take it more intense. Knee is coming in and forward just to the edge of our toes. Keep your hips square. Don't let them rotate out. That's what they're going to want to do. And bring it back. Push forward, flattening out the arch of your foot. And bring it back. Push it forward and back. Take as much weight as you can bear. Remember, you should still be able to see your big toe as you push forward. Find one more time. And then we're going to the outside of our pinky toe. Coming all the way to the edge of our toe. Keeping the heel down, don't let it rise up. Keep the big toe mound down. So the four corners of your feet stay firm into those folds of your towel. Finding movement through our ankle, through our feet. So we're finding pronation through the feet and supination. And this is super important because we have a lot of movement we should have in our feet, but when our feet are stuck in shoes all the time, that closes off that movement. We get very little movement in our feet. So being barefoot as much as you can, getting movement in your feet is great, but you also need to support and build strength and stability to the arches of your feet, which is what we have coming next. Find one more time, pinky side, and bring it back. Let's come off the folds of our towel, and we can release the towel off to the side. And then find a standing position, toes pointed forward, and just take a moment to notice. How do you feel through your hips? Find some movement side to side, bend your knees. Find movement to your feet and your ankles. Kind of roll them out and in, making sure you're honoring the movement there, forward and back. And back to the center. The toes stay light. We're going to push the big toe mound of our foot down into the floor. Lift the rest of our toes up as high as we can. And try and lift them all up evenly. Even though that may not happen, that's our goal. Notice how the four corners of our feet stay firm in the mat as we hold here for a moment. You're going to feel the sides of your glutes engaged, the back of your glutes engaged. Make sure you're not locking out your knees. You're keeping a soft bend there. And relax back down. Lift just your big toes and let the rest of your toes push down into the floor. So for those of you that have bunions in your feet, this is super great to find this movement through your toes. And bring your big toes down, lift the rest of your toes up, pushing the big toe mounds into the mat. And not just the mounds, but the toes themselves. And relax down, lift the big toes. Notice, do you shift your weight out to the sides of your feet? And then when we push your big toes down, do you shift your weight into the inside of your feet? Push the big toes down, lift the rest of your toes. Then lift all of your toes up. Feel the arches of your feet lift up off the floor. Keep those arches lifted as much as you can. Push all of your little toes down, keep your big toes up. And lift your toes again. Push your big toe mound down, keep the little toes lifted. Lift the big toes up. If this is easy to push your little toes down, I want you to start with the outside. Push the pinky toe, then second or third toe, fourth toe, all the way down into your big toe. So just start from the outside, push down one at a time, keeping the big toe up. And then lift all your toes, push your big toes down. Lift the big toes up, and we're going to do that again. Little toes into big toes, one at a time. Keep the big toes lifted. And then relax. We're gonna grab a seat. And from our seated position, we're gonna interlace our fingers or your socks. So if you don't wanna have your fingers between your toes, I completely understand. I'm gonna demo with socks just so you can see. You're gonna lift your left foot up. So your heel's gonna be on the ground. Your toes are gonna be lifted. Your right leg does whatever it wants. You can bend it, you can extend it, whatever you wanna do. And then either with a towel, socks, or fingers, you're gonna interlace in between your toes. Now, if you have thin socks, this isn't gonna do a lot unless your sock happens to be long enough that you can wrap it around twice. But you're gonna interlace your socks between your toes, creating space. Now, if your socks are long or you have another one that you wanna wrap around, you're gonna do it the opposite way. You're kind of stick it between your toes, creating as much space as possible, wedging the sock down to the mounds of your foot. And that's just creating more space between the toes. Now, some toes are gonna move easily and some not so much. Focus on the ones that are not moving as much. Those are the ones that you're gonna hold with your toes spread. And then once you get them spread, I want you to relax your foot down. Just take a moment to soften through your toes. Don't worry about your posture. Let it just be comfortable and upright as much as it feels good for you. Now the idea is to get as much of a spread between your toes as you can. So kind of play around with towels and socks and fingers and see how it feels. If you're using fingers, see if you can spread your fingers apart if your toes allow. We're not looking for pain. We're not looking for discomfort. We're not going to see how much our toes can take. We're finding a place that our toes feel a comfortable stretch, the same way the rest of our body can receive stretches. And then release whatever we have between our toes. Let our foot come back down and just kind of notice, is there space between our toes? If you have a wide footbed, then you're probably going to have more space between your toes than you would if you have a narrow one. So this is not necessarily how much space you've created as much as how wide your foot is. But what you would like to see is the big toe in a straight line with the big toe mound. And for those of you that have bunions, you'll notice that you have a little more of a mound to the side of your foot. But if you can bring the big toe out a little bit so that it's in line with that space, that takes some of the tension off of the big toe mound. And if you could do that and have shoes that have a wide toe box, then you would have that same opportunity to be able to keep the toe wider. And then again, it just takes tension off that mound, off that joint. Doesn't necessarily fix the problem, it just takes some of the tension away. We're gonna switch sides and then play around with socks, fingers, towel, whatever you have today. And then let your foot relax once you get your foot bound up in any way that you've created the bind in your foot, in your toes. If you like to move your feet around, make sure that your foot stays relaxed while you do so. Moving the toes around. If you want to move the feet around, you can do that as well. Just remember, you already worked a lot through the bottom of your foot. And then release our bind. Let your foot come down to the floor and just kind of notice where our foot is at. Let the four corners of our foot rest on the mat. Notice if there's any gaps between your toes, if any one is bigger than the other, or if they're pretty even. Notice if the big toe turns in, or is it straight in line with your big toe mound. And again, this is just an observation, just a mindfulness, just checking in with where we are in our feet. And then from here, we're going to move into Shavasana, final relaxation. So choosing any position that feels good for you. If you want to support it in any way with props, feel free to do that. Remembering that once we arrive in our position, our goal is to let go of all the mind stuff. Let go of propping our body, let go of any effort, and allow our bodies to soften into the supported position we've created. drawing our awareness back to our bodies. And our breaths begin to deepen. And our mind stay in a neutral, relaxed position. And then from whatever position we're in, let's slowly find our way back to a comfortable seat. From our comfortable seated position, notice how we feel. Notice our feet, our hips, our mid-back, our posture. Notice all the moments within our practice that were easy, all the way to the moments that were challenging. Take all of that as a gift as we place it between our hands, drawing our hands together in front of our heart. Bringing that information, that mindfulness into the rest of our day as we get ready to move off of our mat, noticing how all of those components felt or feel in movement. Namaste.